quiet hustle. Caleb Dawson had never been the type to stand out. Growing up in the quiet town of Selma, Alabama, he found comfort in the shadows, preferring books, computers, and solitude over social gatherings. His father, Earl Dawson, was much the same, a quiet man who worked long hours at the local auto repair shop and kept to himself. They lived simply, with no frills, no flash, and no sign that their lives were anything but ordinary. But behind closed doors, Caleb and his father were running a quiet empire. It had started years ago when Caleb, still a teenager, discovered an interest in the stock market. While other kids were out playing football or chasing girls, Caleb spent his evenings devouring finance books and watching stock trends. He had a natural instinct for patterns and timing. What started as curiosity soon turned into a full-fledged passion, and by the time he turned 18, Caleb had convinced his father to let him invest a small amount of savings. Earl wasn't much for technology, but he trusted his son. "Just don't lose it all," he had said with a chuckle, handing over a modest sum from his emergency fund. Caleb didn't lose it. He doubled it in 6 months. Over the next few years, father and son built something few people in Selma could imagine, a digital fortune hidden behind their modest way of life. Caleb handled the stocks, cryptocurrency, and online trading, while Earl, with his knack for mechanics, flipped classic cars on the side, buying rusted old models, restoring them in secret, and selling them to wealthy collectors out of town. No one suspected a thing. They still lived in the same small house on the outskirts of town. Earl still worked at the shop, and Caleb still acted like the quiet, introverted guy who avoided social events. People assumed they were barely getting by, but in reality, their accounts were growing. Hundreds of thousands turned into millions over time. By the time Caleb turned 26, they had enough to retire. One morning, Earl sat across from his son at the worn-out kitchen table, sipping his black coffee. "So, what now?" he asked, a hint of amusement in his voice. Caleb, still in his pajama pants, scrolled through his phone, checking their latest gains. "We could leave, travel, start fresh somewhere else." Earl exhaled, looking out the window at the town that had been his home for decades. "Nah, I like it here," he smirked. "Besides, folks don't need to know what we got." And so, they stayed. They still drove their old trucks, still wore the same jeans and boots, still nodded politely at neighbors who never knew the quiet Dawson men were wealthier than half the town combined. For Caleb, that was the best part. Nobody ever saw it coming, and that's exactly how he liked it.